Hey everyone! Thanks for tuning in. Today's the second video in our three-part series about hiking with your dog. Today, we're going to talk all about food and nutrition and pain meds for your four-legged friend on the trail. Stick around.
So now that we have a pack, we're going to fill it with more than just accessories. The dog needs to be able to eat and drink while you're on the trail too. So first off, containers. So one of the things, my sister actually got me this for Christmas, I think a couple years ago, is it's a dog carrier container. It's actually split into two sides with two separate holes on the top that you can technically put water on one side, food in the other. The downside of that is these holes in the top are a little small. Works fine for liquids, but depending on what size kibble you have, it may not actually pour out. It doesn't work all that well for kibble that's larger. But for day trips, this works really well. I usually do that because it's just one combined thing. Fits in Daisy's pack on the one side, half food, half water, and she ends up using all of it up at the top or the lean-to wherever we're stopping for lunch. We'll pour out her food and water, and then you can refill it with new water. So that's how we carry that. More importantly, though, is a bowl. These collapsible bowls, I have a ton of them, mostly because they do tend to wear out and break, but it folds down, collapses just like the ones that you have for for some of the nylon ones. I have one for eating my food. But these come in very handy. You can carry more than one if you wanted to keep food and water separate, for instance. Mostly that would be for smells, because if the food gets on the dish and it's not as clean, then you got to worry about making sure that's in a bear bag or something. But these are handy. We did learn on Cranberry Lake not to strap these to the outside of the pack. She broke one and lost one, I think. Yep. Hence bringing two doesn't hurt, but you're tempted to do so because it's got a little carabiner on them. You can clip it on the outside. Hey, she's carrying her food. But again, she goes through underbrush and it'll get caught, break on things, fall off, and then you're stuck trying to find it. So I actually still put them in the pack now. But bowls. So what are we putting in the bowls? Food. As I mentioned, I do carry the kibble in this sometimes, but when we're dealing with the overnight hikes, I actually have a couple of the small op sacks. They're the small ones. These are just, I forget what size they are. It's like 7x7 or something like that. And I use this to put her food in, just because their food tends to be a little smellier than ours. Our dehydrated stuff is already in Ziplocs usually. So this helped kind of seal that smell in, and then it still goes in our food bag and the bear bag. To protect it, but this does work well to hold their food, and so I have a couple of those to keep her food in. I do bring kibble still, though I am in the process of kind of switching over dehydrated, especially for the overnights. Day hikes, she's carrying all her own food anyway, but when we're going for multiple days out, kibble's heavy. And she can't carry all of it for one. She can carry a day's worth. So when we have 4 days worth of kibble, that's a lot. Some people will just do snack foods for their dogs because they have more fat and they technically don't need a meal every day. I feel bad doing that, so I still bring her meals. She only eats morning and night. She doesn't eat all three, but I bring kibble that can be spread out across those. But I've started using dehydrated food now too. The last couple of hikes, I've done her meals half and half. So she's gotten to try this. This actually works out. I have two different kinds that I ordered from Amazon. This one is Primal Nuggets, and it's a chicken one, and then I have a beef one as well. And this actually doesn't need boiling water to rehydrate. You actually can just pour regular water into them and let them sit for a bit and mix. You do want to rehydrate it before you give it to them. You don't have to, but from what I read, what can happen is if you feed them just the dehydrated pieces, they think they're still hungry because they didn't eat as much. So you'll give them the piece and it actually is going to expand in their stomach after the fact, but because they mentally didn't eat very much food, they're going to be looking for more. Granted, dogs are always looking for food, so that may not really matter. But the dehydrated food's been working out, and it's a lot lighter, so that's handy to do, and you can use it as popping for snacks. Speaking of snacks, treats are important. I kind of mentioned it with our training. You want to have something when you're training them to come back, but even after they're trained, it's good to have something to treat them when they're doing good behavior, whether it's when they did a right recall or just to bring them in. So you can bring actual dog treats, but again, that's weight. What I tend to do is always bring jerky as one of my snacks. So jerky, dogs can have jerky. So it does double purpose. It's food for me, snacks for her, treats for her. And that allows you to have something that you can treat her as you're hiking, as well as have food that you enjoy, because jerky's delicious. So that's one thing. The other thing I do tend to do is most of my snacks I do bring are ones she can share with me. Not in large amounts. Dogs shouldn't have a lot of sugar or things like that. But there's things that they definitely can't have. Raisins and grapes, for instance, are not supposed to have. Chocolate. So things with M&Ms, they're not supposed to eat these things. It can make them very sick. So one of the things that I tend to do is, if I have a choice with Clif Bars, for instance, that I'm bringing for myself, instead of doing a chocolate one, I'll do a peanut butter or a carrot, or one of those, carrot cake. So the ones that are quote unquote safe for her to share with me, mostly because I'm a sucker, and every time I'm eating a snack, I'm going to give her a bite of whatever I'm eating, as long as it's something that she's allowed to have. Now, that being said, we did learn one trick that you shouldn't do. I mentioned foods that dogs shouldn't have, and one of the things that we learned is apple seeds, which you may know, we didn't really know at the time, contain small traces of arsenic. And if you eat enough of them, it's not enough to kill you, but it's enough to make your stomach upset. And early on, we were feeding Daisy our apple cores because she liked them. And we figured, snack for us, snack for her, leave no trace, and it's taken care of. Unfortunately, she got sick. Not to the point we noticed, but to the point she now has a taste aversion to apples. She won't eat a regular apple, even apple slices. Any type of apple she will not touch now, where she used to love them before, because it did make her feel sick. So that's just a thing to note. Don't feed them your apple cores, even though they will likely eat them. The last food-related thing I'm going to mention is treats again, but these are little rawhides. I usually keep a couple of these on me, and you can use them just to give as a treat, but I actually use them as a distraction. The rawhides, depending on the size of them, take a while for a dog to chew. So occasionally, when you're hiking, you might need to distract said dog for a little bit. When Daisy was younger, it's less of a problem now. She was energetic. While we were unpacking and attempting to set up our camp, she kept stealing our stuff. Whatever we grab, anything that's in a stuff sack size thing, which is pretty much everything when you take it out of your pack, she would pick it up and run around with it. So that kind of situation, just have these handy, give them one of those so that they're distracted chewing on that in the corner. You can set up your camp in peace and not worry about what they might be doing. That covers the food. Now, the other thing that, as hikers, you know, you bring your own medications for whether you get hurt. So you have ibuprofen for pain. You may have stronger meds for allergies or things like that that you need to bring. You do need to have some first aid stuff for dogs as well. There's not a ton of things that over the counter you can give them, but there are some. With medications, obviously, I am not a doctor. Do not listen to me. Always check with your vet before giving any of these specific things. This is just what I've known from talking to my vets in the past. Pain is a big thing. It can happen if they sprain an ankle. The blisters that I've mentioned Daisy's gotten before, while you're on the trail, they could get hurt. And just like you, in order to keep going, she can't stop. She has to get out. So you want to be able to give them some sort of pain medication. You can't give them ibuprofen. You cannot give them acetaminophen. So no Tylenol, no Advil, no Excedrin. The only type of pain medication that is safe for dogs to take is aspirin, pure aspirin. So I always carry, not a bottle, but this is just standard aspirin. You can do Bayer or generic brand aspirin. And for her, she's a big dog. So one pill is fine for her. They're small, and I can give that to her with her food, and that will help her. If she does have any kind of soreness or anything from the trip, I'll give that to her, and that has helped us in the past because she has felt sore from either just overuse of a leg. You might see her limping. She may get blisters. Those types of things, this helps take that edge off for her, so we'll bring that with us. If you have a smaller dog, though, please be careful with dosage. You may have to do pill splitting and break them in half or quarters, depending on the size of your dog. As I said, 70-pound dog, it's just like children. Pay attention to the weights of a dosage. You don't want to give them too much. Similar thing, if you have a dog that is very anxious when they're away from home or in a different situation, they may be antsy. At night specifically, it might be one of the times that they're kind of crazy because they're not used to sleeping in a tent or in a lean-to. One of the things that is safe for them to take is Benadryl. Again, be very careful with the dosage. It does make them drowsy. For Daisy, again, one of the 25 milligram tablets is enough for her. And I don't usually use this too often anymore, but there had been times at night where I would give it to her to help her calm down because she was very anxious with the sounds when she was younger and getting used to it. Also, if they do have an allergic reaction, you can technically give them the Benadryl for this as well. So if they do have something that they're itching or scratching at, Benadryl does help them just like us. Same concept as it's the antihistamine. So those are two medications that I do keep in my emergency pack of pills for my stuff. Again, it's a dosage thing. Talk to the vet. You can find out how much can be used for your dog. The last piece of medication that I'm going to talk about is actually a pad soother. It's actually for paws or snouts, any dry skin. But obviously, as I mentioned before, Daisy sometimes gets blisters. Just like us, it's a lot of walking. It can be harmful on her paws, the rocks, the things like that. So after the hikes, this stuff, you actually can just, you rub, you see it's got these rub marks and little fur. It's a lotion, and you can rub that right onto her paws. And their nose, if their nose gets dry or cracked, it's the same thing. It's basically a moisturizer, but that'll help with some of the healing after the fact. There are some puppy mush or something I think it's called that for winter hiking you can put on. I haven't had much luck with doing any of that. They tend to eat it off. But you can do that type of foot care prior to try and help with some of the cold. They also do have booties. I did try that with one of my Weimaraners, and unfortunately, she hated it. It threw off her balance. She didn't know what was going on. She did kind of this weird dance thing, couldn't put her feet down. So I would assume if you use them when they were younger, just like anything conditioning, they may get used to them. But I find that the dogs in general, they kind of need their feet. Their claws need to be able to be accessible depending on where they're walking, because that's their balance and how they grip and pull themselves up things. So you do be careful with the booties. If they have sensitive paws, it might be better. But to me, it seems like you need it. The same way that some of the barefoot hikers say it's better for them because they can feel the ground under their feet. Now, for me, I need my boots, but I think the dogs need that the same way. So that's the medications that we bring in. Daisy doesn't carry the medications, to be fair. I do carry that portion of it, but she does carry her day's worth of food for sure, as well as all of her bedding and her jacket type things. Those are all in her pack.
All right, and that was part 2 of our 3-part series of hiking with your 4-legged friends. If you liked the video, remember to give it a thumbs up. If you like outdoor adventure videos, gear chat, things like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. But most importantly, I hope that we've inspired you to get outside and do something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.